Alright, I'm here at sunny Saigon International College. Wouldn't you like to be here? I've got my stick. Introduction to Quality. Last week we were talking about, or I was talking about on one video, about the concept of the production management in general, how production management works, the kind of roles and different jobs that a production manager has to deal with. It's a very complicated job. It has line management involved. It has middle management involved, mostly middle and line. So you have you have some planning, you have a lot of organizing, some leading to achieve certain levels of productivity, and of course you have controlling. Controlling is every day. Control, control, control. And the top management has bigger targets like profitability and all these things. But like the farm that we saw, every day is kind of a different depending on the orders coming in, it's a different adventure. It's not quite as, for a line worker, it's kind of boring, but production management is kind of interesting. There's a lot of different things to consider and think about. Before we get deep into quality control, which is what this is leaning towards now. So that the path will be quality control, and then looking at something called lean management and cost cutting. And then after that, we're going to end up, by the end of the week, we're going to be talking about inventory control. And I think that'll be 2 classes. So probably a week from today, we'll be ready to take a test on this stuff, but we won't be able to take a test. So probably we'll just have a review session about it and wait even longer. So I'm gonna go and just review the different types of production real quick. We have our production methods here. I think if I asked you on a test, you would tell me, of course, that they are job, batch, and either flow or mass production. Job production again. Well, these are different levels of labor versus capital being employed, right? Machines. So here they're talking about the 4 factors of production: land, labor, land could be farms, could be factories, labor, capital, and the person who's got the idea to bring them all together, the entrepreneur. And sometimes they're called 5 M's. Materials, manpower, machines, money, and management. But nonetheless, I just wanted to point out, again, these advantages and disadvantages in case you didn't review. Job production, making a building. An individual building is a job. It's not, you don't mass produce that. Maybe you do if you're Vin homes and you're making the same apartment building over and over again. But I think that's a batch production. I would not say that's mass production. Mostly job production. Mostly people say, okay, I want a landmark 81. I only want one landmark 81. So the whole job has to be done from the beginning to the end as a unique project, like a prototype. Job production usually has a lot of hands-on, a lot of labor, so the uniqueness is huge. The flexibility in the design is huge because there's only one being made. Because it has to be perfect and there's skill involved, and there's a lot of motivation behind it, and typically the quality follows because there's good quality. You know, there's people there all the time taking care of it, so it's being checked constantly. Of course, this kind of production is super labor intensive, And building a building can take, you know, building a house next to your house can take 3 months. So imagine building a skyscraper. It can take a long time. Haircuts, not so much. I think my haircut is more like batch production. I don't feel like my haircut is unique. I think the guy, he just does every haircut the same. Maybe it's mass production haircut I'm having. Wedding dress, typically that would be unique, designed for the bride, so it fits perfectly. But these disadvantages continue. There's a lot of labor, so there's a lot of labor costs. It often cannot be done quite, you know, quickly, and that means that the working capital involved, especially in a big building, is going to be tied up for a long time. You're not going to get that working capital back until the building's finished in a year. You have to have a lot of working capital and almost zero economies of scale. You would never think that. Cookies, yum. What else do we have? Cookies. The second one is, looks like some kind of woolen socks or something, and a food buffet. Those are considered batch production. Batch production occurs when, in a classroom, you're like the batch of the students in this class. Although, I wish that there was more special. With a smaller class, there's more job production in the classroom, but with a bigger class, there's more batch production. And you hope that your school never becomes an assembly line. That would be horrible, but that's the way some public schools run. The key advantage, batch production. You get some economies of scale, a bit. You get variety. You can make some orders to tailor for some groups of people instead of individuals, but groups might want the same thing. And there's still some job specialization. There's still skill involved, quite a bit of skill involved with the making of a product, whether it's similar pizzas or whatever. The limitations of batch production. What are the limitations? Well, it's still a bit slow. It's not as fast. It's not as exciting or hands-on. It's a little more predictable than job production. And since you're moving around quite a few pieces, you have to worry about how you're going to store, what kind of storage is going to be available while you're working on the next batch, or how does it get sold. There's not too many bad things about batch production. Sometimes called flow, sometimes called mass production. Newspapers. Nike shoes, surprisingly, are batch, not assembly line. Cars are assembly line. Chemicals, oil refineries. What are the advantages of this mass production? Obviously, the biggest advantage is that it just runs and runs and runs. And so the fixed costs drop to zero, and the per unit cost is quite low. The specialization of the workers is very high, if they have any, workers at all, and everything's not turned into automated machines. And there should be, if it's a good system, quite not many, just few quality problems, or the whole thing is wrecked. And also labor costs are kind of low compared to machine costs. Very boring work. If you've ever seen assembly line of fruit or vegetables, very boring. And there's a lot of risks involved. If something goes wrong, then it's going to delay a lot. There's going to be a big loss. Unable to rework products. If if there's something that happens that's substandard, you lose the whole set of whatever was produced at that time. And it costs a lot of money to set up and a lot of storage in order to hold on to all the stuff that's being produced. I love that one about the airline. That was a cool one. The airline assembly line. A cool video about that one. So instead of like the factory being like in one, you know, the plane moves through the whole assembly line as it's going through and getting worked on by people the whole time, which is totally cool.
We do charge for the tour, I think it's $25, and before you ask me the question, we don't make it.
Cargo there, you can see there the wings. You have another plane there for Gulfare. So another one from the line there we have the 787 for Japan Airlines, the 787 number 41 for Japan Airlines already. Yeah, it's Dash 9. And there we have all the customers rated the 787-8 line, and then I think that then the first one is United, and then you have
I don't want that. I want the one that's like the high-speed one.
Hi, yeah, this is Mr. Zuckerberg. The hardest part of my job?
In 737 since launching a house. First, engineers installed the plumbing and electrics and the insulation. On the fourth day, the tube becomes a plane. The wings go on, along with the vertical fin or tail. Workers align them with laser guidance. This is when they fit the landing gear too. Day 5 is for the horizontal stabilizer install and the start of functional tests. Engineers are putting wiring in now for flight control and finishing the internal floorboards. They start building the interiors up, the galleys and the bathrooms. Then, on day 6, the plane comes alive. That flashing red light means there's power to the airplane. Large-scale tests are now possible. Like, does the landing gear retract properly? It had better. The next time it's folded away will be when this plane takes off for the first time. Day 7, and the plane's weight is set on its own wheels, and the engines are fixed to the wings along with their own network of wires, cables, and tubes. All through the build, systems are checked and rechecked, and day 8 is a critical test of the flight control surfaces, the flaps, and the flight deck itself, the cockpit. All these parts have been checked in isolation. Now it's crucial they work together. The plane is nearing the end of the moving production line. On day 9, the customer gets to do a walkthrough inspection before it's towed out of the factory. Born, in a way, into the big wide world. The next stop is Renton Field for ground tests of the engines and other systems. And then, first flight.
Pretty cool thing going on there. How they do that. That's an assembly line for aircraft. They didn't always have that. You can imagine how huge the building is and how much investment it takes to do that. Alright, so, and then you see that many wires, and my first thought is, oh my god, you just have to mess up one wire and that's it, right? I mean, everything has to be, so many things have to be perfect for that to work. It's unbelievable. So, that leads us to quality control. How do you know that this airplane is going to fly? So here's a short video to introduce quality control, and then we'll come up with some examples.
In this business topic video, let's introduce the concept of quality. Firstly, what do we mean by quality? Well, a great definition is that a product or service is of good quality if it meets the needs and expectations of the customer.
All right, you can define it like that.
That's a really important definition, because quality essentially is defined by the customer and judged by the customer based on his or her needs and expectations of the product or service. So really importantly, from a business point of view, quality is all about how the customer perceives the product, not how the business might perceive its own products. And to achieve quality, you need to meet needs and expectations such as performance. Does the product do what it needs to do? Is it fit for purpose? How does it appear? How reliable is it? How durable is it? Is it available to buy? And also, of course, price. Is the price consistent with all of those other needs and expectations? Does it represent value for money? If a product or service can meet as many of those, or ideally all of those needs and expectations, then it will be deemed by customers to be a quality product. If it doesn't, then in some respect, it's poor quality, it's substandard.
I jump quickly. This guy's on the PowerPoint. So yeah, all those elements there, I think I would take care about them, yeah. Performance, it works well, it looks the right way, it lasts long enough. Feels durable.
It's poor quality, it's substandard. Now, of course, there are various different measures of quality, and some of them are tangible, can be measured, and some of them are intangible, hard to measure, but you kind of know when you see them. Some good examples of tangible, i.e. measurable quality are firstly factors such as reliability. Does the product break down? Does it stop working after a while? Does it ever work? Or does it go on working well forever without ever needing maintenance or repair? Does it have all the functions and features that it says it has and that the product needs? Is there a strong level of support? Is it built to the right kind of standards? And also a tangible measure of quality is what is the overall cost of ownership? Don't forget, when you buy a product, it's not just the price that you pay for the product, it's also the cost of ownership. For example, maintenance or repairs, insurance. So you've got to look at the overall cost to the consumer as part of a tangible measure of quality. But of course, on the right-hand side there are some really important intangible, judgmental or qualitative measures of quality. For example, exclusiveness. Is this a product that's really hard to get hold of or priced in such a way that most of us can't afford? Does this product have a high market reputation, perhaps measured by the many online systems for measuring customer feedback, such as TripAdvisor? Does the product have a strong brand image, strong brand awareness and customer reputation? The reason why quality is important, and when you come to study quality control,
competitive advantage. Again.
Control of quality assurance, the reason why it's important is that increasingly markets are becoming more and more competitive. And it's no longer really enough to compete purely on the basis of low cost. Quality is often now the defining differentiator between one product being successful and another product being successful. Customers are much better informed, they're more demanding, they're more knowledgeable about the options, particularly because of online information services. They're able to share, for example, via social media, information about substandard products and services. On the flip side though, on a positive note, if a business can develop this reputation for quality, that alone could be a source of competitive advantage over the rest of the market. And here's a great line of analysis that helps explain, perhaps in an exam answer, the business benefits of achieving higher quality, or even better, industry-leading quality. High quality leads to a satisfied customer. A satisfied customer is more likely to come back and buy again from you, in other words, to repeat purchase. But they're also likely to recommend your product or service to their friends and family or acquaintances, or perhaps to leave a positive review on a social media site. A result of having greater customer recommendation is that you don't have to spend so much promoting the business, promoting the product. So your lower marketing costs may be a business benefit of quality. And of course, the key here is that satisfied customers who come back again and again are more loyal customers, therefore there's less need to keep on trying to recruit them through marketing. Quality is therefore very closely linked to a key business concept available and IB called competitiveness. How does a business compete? How does it differentiate itself in the market? How does it position itself in the market? And competitiveness is the advantage that it has over the other alternative products and services. Quality can be a source of differentiation and therefore competitiveness. If you think about it, you could probably name a whole bunch of businesses that try to use quality as a key source of competitiveness, as an advantage over the others in the market. Apple very clearly positions itself as being the highest quality provider of laptops and smartphones and tablets. Waitrose in the supermarket business very much positions itself as being at the upper end, the top end, the quality end of the supermarket chain. And I'm sure you can come up with lots of other brands and businesses that try to compete essentially on quality. Of course, they have an eye to price, but essentially they're trying to compete on high quality. But of course, quality is not just about the product. So here's another important consideration as you think about how quality is assured or managed or controlled.
So this goes into a couple other concepts that we've followed over the years. One is customer focus. So with customer focus, you're not just selling the product, you're selling the relationship with the customer. So that relationship is going to be from hopefully a loyalty situation, and that loyal customer is going to continue to buy your products, recommend your products, take the time to even give feedback. Most customers only give feedback when they like a company, right? When they feel something about a company. If I don't like a shop and I don't care about it, it's my first time and I don't know, whatever, I didn't have any relationship with them, then I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to leave, and that'll be the end of my relationship with that business. But if something was really good and I really liked it before, and then all of a sudden I had a very bad experience in their store with their products, I would definitely give feedback and say, wow, last time I was here it was fantastic. I hope that there's no problems. I hope that everything's going well. I really like this business, and I just wanted you to know that this was substandard for what I expected out of this company. So that's one thing, the relationship with the customer, and so that also leads to what kind of advantage you have. So a quality advantage can be product, but it can also be people, if it's a service, and it can also be process. If the things that are around what you're buying is a solid system, if you recognize that the system works for you. Like Citibank is the worst. I bank at Citibank because they gave me a credit card. It's pretty much the only reason I stay with them. A credit card is useful in situations where there's an emergency, especially these days. If you have to rebook a ticket, something happens, you miss a flight, you're in emergencies, it works quite well. I like it for that. But everything else Citibank does, they don't treat me very well as a customer. You can't really call them. They basically all they do is they direct you to their website and emails constantly. They're not really focused on me as a customer at all. Or I'm too small and they don't care because I'm too small. I don't know. They challenge me on my signature when I want to get money out of my own bank. They don't believe it's my signature. It's a weird law from like the 1800s that your signature is supposed to be your identity. What else? They sometimes, they make it clear that if you're going to go overseas and use their card for anything, that you have to tell them that you're going to go overseas, or else they're not going to authorize what you use the card for. So I always tell them when I'm leaving the country, and sometimes when I leave the country, they still didn't activate my card for that country, so I still can't use it. They've done everything to stress me out. Now, they want to stop my account because my contract is not renewed for SIC because I can't go to the government offices and get a health check. Everything else is fine. I have all the documents. Everything would be fine, but the pandemic is stopping us. So what does Citibank do? They stop my account, so I can't use it anymore because I'm not up to date. They don't serve the customer at all. I hate that company. But a good company would, understand that there's a cost of ownership and try to provide services or advice about how to limit those costs. They would set up the buying process so it was fairly easy to do, or to give you preferential treatment when new products come out. And of course, after-sale service, right? To be able to get repairs. Some companies, like Apple in the US, like here, if your screen breaks, you just take it to some shop on the main street and they'll replace your screen for $500,000. If your screen breaks in America, you can only take it to the Apple store. If you took it somewhere else, then your warranty is dead. And it might cost you $2 million to get it fixed, right? So you're kind of like at the mercy of their service. In the US, Apple they're very interested in being able to get money from you from random places. They don't want to hurt you too much because they have the Apple Store with their quote geniuses. But to a point, they're always looking for little ways that they can get a little extra out of their customers. Make you buy a cloud service and pay every month, for example. So customer relationships are part of quality control.
Quality is about the product, but it's also about the whole customer experience. It's about how easy it is to buy or consume a service or product, how reliable it is, what kind of service that you get post-purchase, what kind of after-sales service. Quality is therefore very closely linked, not just with competitiveness, but also with another important concept that you'll study, particularly in operations management, customer service. You think about how you might judge the quality of the next meal you have out on maybe a night out with the family or with some friends. You go out to the restaurant, you'll be judging the quality of the experience, not just on what's presented on the plate, what you end up eating and drinking, but of course the quality, the attentiveness of the service, the presentation and style and choice of the food in the menu, but also the overall experience, the ambiance of the restaurant, and whether you have a good time. That's how you judge quality, very closely linked to the customer service experience. And of course, you can think of a lot of businesses that are predominantly involved in the service sector who've recognised that actually quality of customer service is a key differentiator. And in particular, what they're trying to do is to develop a consistent approach. So wherever you go, you get the same level of high quality of customer service. Premier Inn being a great example of that. There we go, guys. That's in a separate video. I'm going to take a look at the
All right. So what I want to move on to is to look at our book, and that's on chapter 23. We're in chapter 23 now. Process control, and that's page 153. Process control. In class, I would ask if you could interpret this quotation by Bill Gates. The first rule of any technology used in a business is that automation, in other words, making it something that is machine-led, applied to an efficient operation will magnify the efficiency. The second is that automation applied to an inefficient operation will magnify the inefficiency. In essential, what I think essentially he's saying is that technology is only going to take you so far, depending on how your knowledge and implementation of your operational strategy is. So technology won't save you, basically, is what he's saying. Process control. Businesses have processes that result in products being made, services being delivered, and customers' needs being met. These processes must be free of errors and be relied upon to produce high-quality output consistently. That's what we look for, right? You go to get your hair cut, one time it's good, one time it's bad. There's kind of, I guess, some excitement to that, but you don't really want that much excitement when what your hair looks like is at stake. Big companies, they strive to make processes that are going to make and keep quality control. They don't let employees have decisions at all. Those decisions are not necessary in keeping quality control, because we have to keep the product the same in every economy and every market that we work in. So that's what's called quality control. A business must monitor and review its processes to identify problems and make improvements so customers receive what they want without delay. They're repeating themselves. Okay, quality management. Quality control and quality management. Quality management is the actual action of working towards quality control and ensuring that the processes and systems result in consistently high quality output. We saw in the farm video, I think he did a lot of quality control. He checked the machines. They have some, in the machines, they actually have some weights checks and checks for if there's any metal or any extra foreign substances in the bags. They went out to the fields to check the product as it was growing to see if it was suitable for, or was ripe and ready to be picked. So all of these things from all different levels. So I think that's kind of what we don't think of. We think about quality control as the finished product, whereas most quality management, quality control can be the final product, but quality management means that you are concerned about the raw materials. You're concerned about the processes of how you check before you even make the factory. You're concerned about how you store things. You're concerned about, you know, the packaging and how it's, you know, stable it's going to be and how well it's going to protect the product. There's a lot of things that go from the inputs and through the production process and even to the distribution process that are under quality management. So that's why we started with inputs, production, and outputs, because there's different parts of quality control. Quality management ensures or refers to processes and systems that result in consistently high quality output. A quality product will attract customers and build a positive image and customer loyalty. It's very dramatic when there's a quality control problem, right? It can become a huge PR disaster. It can lead to recalls of products to send them back to the factories. and cost, you know, a lot of money for the business. And people get let go. Governments also contribute to quality control through their regulations in particular. And I think that was one thing to think about, is that we do trust countries that have stronger regulations. We buy products and they have a better reputation for quality. If we think that it's an EU product, we absolutely believe that it's going to be good quality, because EU products are under stricter laws, especially agricultural products, for example. Australia too, to a point. In response to car faults, this is examples. In response to car faults and recalls, Toyota increased their quality control using additional engineers and quality officers. Toyota had a recall, and they had to pull all the cars that they sold to customers and get them to come to the repair shop and fix the brakes, for example. Australian beef industry, of course, there's regulations about that, about the quality standards, how often they check, hygiene, what officially is allowed to, what is safe for people to eat, and to what temperature the refrigerator has to store the meat, everything. Also, a pipeline construction company hires welding quality inspectors to inspect the welding. After sections of a pipeline are welded together, the welds are inspected to make sure they meet quality standards for thickness and consistency. This is typically done by a government, and they'll bring equipment like x-rays and ultrasound to make sure there's no leaks in the pipe. So, very strict quality management there. The benefits of quality management, the benefits, that's on page 154. Quality management is used to isolate and provide feedback. This is where, okay, these words get into a kind of mishmash. Now, quality management is sometimes confused with quality control, and sometimes it means the overall management of quality from beginning to end of the process. Control usually means the final product. So we'll use that vocabulary like that. Quality management is used to isolate and provide feedback on the causes of quality problems. So understanding your system helps to know where you went wrong if you have some issue. By using this approach, data and feedback work towards identifying root cause problems and then developing strategies to try to eliminate them and keep quality high. Sometimes this is called total quality management, but we'll talk about that next class. Quality management can lead to high levels of customer satisfaction. So these are probably worth knowing. Quality management brings pride to the workforce. They're happy and motivated to keep working for a company that has good quality products. They feel good about it. They know there's some prestige there. Production processes that are high quality could also be considered ones that reduce waste. And that waste can come from inside the production process, and also waste because of defective products that are not suitable for sale. So reduction of those is a benefit of quality management. Brand loyalty, sales, and increased profits should be a benefit as well, and positive public image. So if you had to test, why do we, what's the importance of quality control or what benefits does it bring? Pick 3 of those and remember them. So then you have these 3 kinds of quality elements. You have control, which is at the end, assurance, quality assurance, like insurance, but it's assurance, so it's something that tries to be proactive. So assurance means that you work to make quality at the beginning of the system. When you create the system, you work on quality control, not just at the end. And quality improvement is like Kaizen. It's like what's happening in the production process itself. So 3 parts: inputs and design of a system is quality assurance. Building efficiency within the actual production line is called quality improvement. And then the final product, checking the final product to make sure that it's not only not faulty, but is living up to the specifications that were ordered from the factory. Quality control is comparing the results to the plan, right? Quality control is at the end, so you're comparing the results that you achieved to what you had planned at the beginning. It ensures that a manufactured product or service meets a defined set of quality criteria and the requirements of the customer. The purpose is to identify where criteria is not being met and put corrective action in place. Those can be measured, of course, through KPIs, having to do with faulty products, customer complaints, failures from the production line. So let me start with quality control here.
Lamatio is all about going beyond what we women are used to when it comes to functionality and versatility. Every day.
Hi there. In this short topic video, we're going to take a look at another common and popular concept in operations management called quality control. Now, quality control, of course, is an important part of the overall strategy of how a business manages its quality. The key thing to remember is there are 2 main ways of doing this. One is the subject of this short video, quality control. This is about inspection, inspecting products and trying to take the defective products out. The alternative is a thing called quality assurance. Quality assurance isn't about inspection, it's about putting business processes in place that assure the quality of output. In other words, it tries to build quality in and doesn't rely on inspection to take defects out. So quality control, quality assurance sound similar, but they are quite different. Quality control is based on inspection. Quality assurance is based on trying to build quality into the business processes. Quality control can be defined as the process of inspecting products or output to ensure that the output meets the required quality standards. So there's the key word, inspecting. A quick overview of what we mean by quality control. Well, firstly, it's a very traditional and still popular way of trying to manage the level of product quality. And it involves this concept of inspecting, trying to check and look at output as it goes through the production process. The main objective of quality control is to detect defective output rather than allowing it to go out and reach the customer. And of course, it's not always possible to check all the output, so normally this requires some kind of sampling. You take a representative sample of the output to see whether it met the quality standards. Having spotted some substandard output, you remove it, and it simply doesn't get to the customer. But of course, what you're really trying to do is to see whether the results of the quality control checking suggest a broader issue with quality in the business. With too much sampling, too much detection, too much inspection, of course, quality control can soon become quite an expensive or costly process. 3 main points in the operation when inspection is carried out. Firstly, when the inputs into the production process are received. For example, you might check the quality of the raw materials as they're received. Let's imagine a restaurant here.
So just to not confuse things, Raw materials are part of inputs, right? So quality control has to do with inspection. So when you're inspecting something, that means you're looking at it after you bought it, and you decide how many items you're going to inspect per, 1 of 10 or all of them. If I'm going to contrast this with quality assurance is going to be, I'm going to find a supplier who's already got some kind of quality control system that I respect. So instead of inspecting them afterwards, I'm going to try to actually find a supplier that is already high quality, so I don't have to spend so much money on inspections and control.
You check the quality of the ingredients that are received in the restaurant, in the kitchen each day. You might just do it on a sample basis, maybe every day, every other day, one day a month, but you're checking the inputs. Also, you check, you control and inspect as the products are going through the production process. So the chef may be doing some sampling on the stuff that his other team are producing, just to see whether it meets the standard. And finally, you also check when products are finished before they get sent to customers. So again, in our case of a restaurant here, the chef may quickly check the final plate before it's sent out to the customer at the table. Now, of course, there are clearly some business benefits of using quality control, and that's the reason why it's so widely used. Perhaps the most important is it tries to make sure that substandard output, products and services that are not fit for what the customer needs and expectations are, it tries to stop them from reaching the customer. And therefore, an unhappy customer receiving a substandard product. Quality control is...
Maybe you should write down these benefits. Of course, you want to catch anything that's going to get out before you reach the customer. Inside the production process itself, even if it's batch production, you need to have quality. Batch and flow production need quality control. Typically, if you're doing job production, you don't need it, because you're doing it as you go along. But you are trying to make it so you don't disrupt production over and over again. And you need some criteria that's going to be consistently applied in order to make sure and measure, have a similar measurement, KPI that you're looking for.
The sampling is quite well organised, can be done with fairly minimal disruption to production. And also, what you're trying to do is you're trying to apply that consistent standard. So you can raise the standard of what you believe to be acceptable. And if you raise the standard, it may mean that more products fail the quality control check. However, there are some issues with quality inspection. We've mentioned one of them already. It can be quite a costly process. And
more notes.
Of course, if it's taking place mainly at the end of the production process, i.e. just before the finished good is sent out, that's potentially too late, because you've invested a lot of time and cost in getting the product, the substandard product, to that stage of production. There's also a risk that the quality inspections are inconsistent, so one inspector's standards are different from another. And of course, the inspection is being done usually by inspectors rather than by employees themselves, so there may well be a lack of feedback from the quality inspection and sampling back to the production teams to say how they could improve.
Yes, in other words, if the inspectors don't really understand the processes of production, they can talk about the quality issues, but they won't be able to give any advice on how to solve them. That's going to be remain with the workers. I'm sure you've had classes where you've had two different teachers have two different standards of quality for how they grade. That's an example. Now, not all teachers can be 100% the same. We know that that's the goal of Australia. Australia is trying to find a way to moderate, in other words, bring all the teachers in Australia, here, every other school that teaches this curriculum, into some standard that can be compared to one another, which is important for making KPIs. But it's not easy because different teachers have different understandings of the test, the exam, the Australian standards, so it's tricky. So I guess it's good that I'm teaching all 3 year 12 classes because the standard remains the standard. All right, back to our book. So quality control results compares results to the plan. It's trying to ensure that the manufactured product or service meets a defined set of criteria and requirements of the customer. The purpose is to identify which criteria is not being met and to catch the products that are going to be sent out to the customers. Customer complaints mainly arise because quality has fallen, and customers complain because they care, not just because they can complain. Therefore, the objective of QC is realized by keeping quality of output at the right level, minimizing the KPIs of consumer complaints, responding to consumer complaints. Of course, loss of profitability can occur when products do not comply with the regulations, well, not only the standards, so we can compare standards, which are expectations of the customer, and what they're talking about here, which is regulations. So regulations are from the government. So you have to impress the government and the customers. Brand names become associated with quality levels, nations, and their regulation systems. Actually, I think brands, I would say national brand identity exists. So it's very, very important. The level of QC, this is the next to last paragraph, the level of QC depends on the size of the company and the kinds of products it's manufacturing or delivering. A small assembly plant may carry out QC by inspecting individual parts as the staff works to assemble them into a finished product. A large manufacturer may be using a combination of automation, that means machines, and employees will need a very complicated quality control to make sure. If the process is medical, like a pharmaceutical company, or maybe a new food, or a toy, or a chemical, it can take years to verify the safety of those products. That, I think, vaccines, for example, that would still count for something that would be under quality control, being able to verify the safety of a product. And it all starts with the beginning of it, which is, I'm going to talk about just two parts here, the specifications and the raw materials. The specifications are, and this is very important for outsourcing, for example. So the quality control of outsourcing is easier for you because you're giving the quality control away with the outsourcing. When you make the contract, your specifications have to be perfect. Perfect to the millimeter. And that way, anything that's not up to the quality that you need in order to serve your customers can be sent back, and you don't have to pay for it. So the specifications are very important for your own managers of quality control, but also very important for any kind of outsourcing you're going to do. You're not just going to send a picture of a shoe and say, here, make 10,000 of these shoes. you're going to have to determine the material. What kind of leather? What kind of rubber? Every single part of that shoe has got to be broken down into some small measurable part. So specifications. If the criteria and requirements for a product are clear and agreed on by whoever, the other factory, your production team, and agreed to, it would be much easier to meet them. It may involve meetings with clients or relevant staff, a lot of designs, developing clear design briefs, materials that will be used, the aspects of user friendliness. There's going to be a prototype to test. So quality specifications include everything. Appearance, the kind of packaging is going to be important for selling, how heavy, size, weight, colors, the power source or battery life, durability, and that's just not even included. Imagine a computer, how many specifications come on the average computer anyway, that as a consumer you actually care about. Think about a producer. There's got to be 1,000 different kinds of specifications for every small part of that computer. So that's huge. Specifications are super necessary for making sure that the process is going to work from the beginning. And then you're going to get the product that you really want. Size, size of shoes. Getting the size right. There's a European size 46, there's an American size 11.5, there's an English size 11, which all are the same. It's crazy. And that leads into raw materials. Raw materials. So whatever you put into the process is what you're going to get out of it. High quality raw materials are going to be used to make high quality products. This can be difficult to manage because there are cost pressures. There's a natural pressure between cheap suppliers and low cost and high quality. Quality and cost are battling constantly, and raw materials is probably one of the places where there's the biggest kind of maybe disparity. We all know that we've seen beautiful bridges that fall down. The design is great, the specifications are right, the team that built it did pretty good. They built it to specification, but the raw materials were weak. They tried to save money on raw materials, so the product wasn't durable or the bridge fell down. So the materials are very important to manage the level that you want to have in terms of quality. There are cost pressures. High quality raw materials are also more expensive, so there's a balance between quality and profitability based on cost. Companies often have quality criteria for raw materials and a preferred supplier list. That's getting towards quality assurance. Preferred supplier list, the companies that you want to supply you. A company may have trusted suppliers that have their own strict quality controls. This makes it easier for you because the company knows that the raw materials from these suppliers will meet their own quality specifications and already be ready for use and trusted. Alright, I think that is pretty good for today. I don't think I'll make it through raw materials. Next class is also about quality control, and then we're going to have inventory control, and then no test, because there's no way to have a test anymore. So, alright, you guys have a great beginning of the week. I'll see you on Wednesday.